I'm your host, Lauren, and together let's explore what it really means to embrace authenticity in a world that often values conformity. If you've ever felt the pull to challenge the status quo or deepen your connection to self, you're in the right place. Welcome back to another episode of Not So Status Quo. It is a solo episode this week, so I hope you are ready to do a deep dive today on a topic relating to living a life in alignment with your true, authentic self, even if that goes against the status quo. I hope you enjoyed the conversation with Julie from last week. I'm sure you will agree that her journey has been so incredible. And although it's been full of ups and downs and twists and turns, it is really inspiring on so many levels. I hope that you took away from it that it is never too late to reinvent yourself, and especially the importance of noticing the signs that you are outgrowing your current reality, because this is what we are going to focus on today. Signs that you are outgrowing your current life and what to do about it. So many people feel restless, frustrated, and stuck, but they don't realize they're actually simply growing or outgrowing their circumstances. I can seriously relate to this sense of frustration and that growing uncomfortability that comes with being in a situation that I have definitely outgrown. One situation in particular was when I realized I was outgrowing working in a traditional 9 to 5 that required me to be going into an office every single day and helping to grow somebody else's business for the majority of my day. I remember going into the office and I was working really long hours, and I would get home and I felt so incredibly drained. And for a long time, I thought that this was just because I was working really hard and I was working sometimes quite long hours. And I was also on call. So sometimes I'd get after hours calls. And I thought that this is the reason that I was so drained. But I actually realized that it wasn't necessarily the hours, it was how I was spending those hours. So I was doing so many activities and tasks that were really energy sucking. They didn't light me up. They didn't align with my passions, my interests. So when I would come home after a day that was full of things that were really out of alignment for me, I felt like I had nothing left in the tank. And fast forward to owning my own business, I put in far more hours. If you think that owning a business means that you'll work less, yes, you absolutely can do that if you design it to be like that, and particularly in time. However, especially when you're starting up a business, the amount of hours that you invest far outweighs often the time that you would put in a 9 to 5. And let me tell you, putting in those hours, spending an entire day, day after day, going to bed at like midnight, 1 a.m., 2 a.m., and then getting up and doing the same thing the next day, I was so much happier, so much more fulfilled, even though I was working longer hours. Why? Because I was so much more in alignment doing activities that actually resonated with me. Now, look, not everything that you do when you're starting a business or if you step into a role that you actually love and is in alignment is going to be incredibly joyful and is going to bring you happiness and all of these things. But when most of the activities that you're doing aligns with something that you're very passionate about, it doesn't have the same effect on your energy. So after reflecting on this, I realized, okay, it is definitely the job. It's how I'm spending my hours that is out of alignment. I'm feeling so frustrated. It has served an incredible purpose. I'm so grateful for the opportunities. However, if I want to actually live a life that I feel so fulfilled and happy with, I need to make a shift. So awareness of the signs was the first step. The second step, though, was getting clear on my values. So, what was it that I valued? What was I passionate about? What actually would light me up? What were things that would have me so excited to get out of bed in the morning? And then after that, it's all about having the right systems. But we will get into that another time. So, today I just want to focus on what are the signs that you have outgrown your current circumstance, relationship, situation, and what you can do about it. Okay, so I want to talk about the 4 most common signs that a lot of the clients that come to me have been experiencing. And again, this relates to situations, roles, relationships, things that are going on in your life. So the first one is that you are feeling disconnected. So maybe there were activities that you used to really enjoy, but they no longer excite you. So maybe these activities start to feel more like a chore than an opportunity. For example, say you used to love going to pottery, or you loved playing a particular sport, or you loved going to a particular social club or social events. And all of a sudden, you start feeling a bit of resistance when you think about going to those things. It's taking a little bit more effort. You're starting to not enjoy it as much. There's just resistance there. And it feels like it's more of a tick on a list rather than an opportunity. Another example of being disconnected is when you're having conversations with friends or colleagues and they're starting to feel quite draining instead of energizing. Have you ever found yourself, maybe you're with a friendship group, or you're with your colleagues, and they're talking about things that you used to find really interesting and you might have participated a lot more in the conversations, but then all of a sudden you're kind of getting a little distracted. You're not really connected in the conversation. You're not as enthused to be a part of the conversation, and you might start thinking about other things. Your mind is just wandering elsewhere. So just take note of that disconnection. Now, the third thing that could indicate disconnection is that you find yourself daydreaming about something different. Maybe you know what that is, you have a clear picture, or maybe you don't know exactly what it is, but you just find your mind wandering quite a lot. And this is something that I have experienced quite a lot in the past. I remember sitting in my office and just staring out the window, daydreaming about travel, dreaming about future businesses, dreaming about future collaborations, dreaming about creative projects. So many things were indicating to me, and I was daydreaming about so many different things. That was not my day job. I was very much disconnected from my day to day reality, and I was daydreaming about all of the things that I would have preferred to have been doing with my time. So, which of these can you relate to? Or maybe you can relate to all three of them. So, then the question is, what can you do if you find yourself disconnected? So, I want you to think about where your energy naturally gravitates. What are the things that you feel drawn to? What are the things that you could do and get lost in for hours? The time just seems to slip by. What are those things? I then want you to think about your week. Grab your journal, because I want you to write about what you truly enjoyed versus what felt forced. What were the things that came naturally to you? What were the things that gave you energy? And what were the things that there was just a bit of resistance that felt really forced? Then, when you have that list, I want you to think about more broadly what those things are that are life giving and the things that are life sucking. You should get some really good insight from that activity. And then the other thing I want you to start doing is reconnecting with your curiosity. I want you to try new things without pressure. Kids do this so well. In fact, kids do so many things so well. We can learn a lot from the kids around us, or us from when we were children. I want you to start being really curious about the world around you, about how you're moving through the world, around the way that things make you feel. And I want you to do this without judgment. It's so important that we approach ourselves with curiosity, especially when we're in this season of thinking that maybe change is on the horizon. This is a judgment free zone. I tell my clients this all the time. We are not here to judge ourselves. We did the best we could at the time. Now we feel like change is coming and we're in the stage of unknown, and that can feel a little overwhelming at times. We can have a lot of fear, which we'll talk about later. However, let's just approach ourselves with sheer curiosity. Okay, so one of the other common signs that you are outgrowing your current circumstance, relationship, situation, role is that your inner voice is getting louder, and those hints are getting harder to ignore. So maybe you have this gut feeling that you are meant for more, or that you are meant to be doing something different with your life. And don't try and tell me that you don't know what I'm talking about. Maybe you're starting to notice that there's signs or synchronicities pulling you in a different direction. And my guess is you are starting to feel uneasy or restless, even when everything in your life looks fine on the outside. And I want to emphasize, just because your life looks good on paper and it looks good from the outside, does not mean that it feels good on the inside and that it is the life that you are meant to be living. If you are not feeling incredibly fulfilled, excited, happy, joyful, peaceful, whatever you value at this stage in your life, if you are not feeling those things, the life you are living, you're out of alignment. And at that point, we need to ascertain, what does alignment look like? This was me 6, 7 years ago. My life from the outside looked incredible. And I know because people used to tell me. I had a good job. I had good income. I owned my home. I was in a marriage. I was traveling the world. I was exercising and playing sport. Everything from the outside looked fantastic. But I was not fulfilled. I was so frustrated. I was so agitated. And for a long time, I didn't know exactly what needed to change. That was a process. But I was able to recognize that there were signs that were screaming at me, especially my inner voice, my intuition, telling me something isn't right. I had a lot of gratitude for the life that I was living, don't get me wrong. But just because I had a lot of gratitude doesn't mean that I was wrong for wanting more or wanting different. Why? Because I had enough self love and enough self respect to know that leading a life that was not true to who I was, it wouldn't just affect me, but in turn, it would inevitably affect everyone around me. So, what do you do if you find yourself in this situation? First of all, I encourage you to start trusting your intuition. Self trust is so underrated. If you are looking to change something in your life, having self trust and trusting your intuition is going to be critical for you. So, one way to see if your intuition is talking to you is writing down any repetitive thoughts or ideas that keep coming up for you. So, don't feel like you have to rush through life. Don't feel like you have to make really rushed big decisions. Take a step back and allow the answers to come to you with time. And time might be a couple of days, it might be a couple of weeks, it might be a couple of months, it could be a year. But I want you to really take note of those gut feelings, those thoughts, those little drop ins that you get that are really consistent. The other thing that I want you to do is I want you to start taking small risks. So explore paths without needing certainty. I know firsthand that feeling of not wanting to take a step forward and getting it wrong without having a high degree of certainty that things are going to work out. Do you know how many dreams that kills? That feeling of needing certainty because we're so scared to get it wrong. I often tell my one on one clients that sometimes when we're trying to build the staircase, we want to go from A to B. But the actual journey is A to Z because there are fundamental things that we need to learn along the way. And oftentimes there's mistakes, challenges, hurdles that we need to go through first in order to get to the next level. And let's be real, sometimes the best things in life come from jumping outside our comfort zones and exploring new opportunities without having certainty. It's allowing room to actually be delighted by life and having things turn out even better than what we expected. And it's all about knowing that, okay, even if things don't go the way that I hope that they will, I'll be okay. Why? Because I have always been okay. I've always been able to get through situations. And this can be really effective, reminding yourself that you have been able to get through all of life's challenges so far. Fear holds us back so much. So I want you to also ask yourself, if I wasn't afraid, what would I do next? And at this point, we'll often try to bargain with ourselves and our logical brain will kick in. And when you find yourself with all of these objections to the answer that you come up with when you answer this question, challenge yourself. Okay, so the third thing that you have outgrown your current circumstance, role, relationship is that your values and priorities are changing. So maybe what once mattered to you, it doesn't feel so important anymore. Maybe you're drawn to different types of people, maybe different conversations, different lifestyles. Maybe you're feeling frustrated by old patterns or expectations that no longer align with who you're becoming. Just as there are different seasons in the world around us, I believe that as humans, we go through a variety of different seasons throughout our lifetime, but also throughout the year. You are going to have different values in different stages of your life. In one season, you may be in complete hustle mode. You are building the empire. You are putting in the hours. You are doing the work. You're go, 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 go. Another season, you may be valuing more rest, restoration, laying foundations, peace. Another season could be more around social connections, relationships, investing into the relationships and people around you. Now, this isn't to say that there can't be some overlap, absolutely, but I want to emphasize that you are going to value different things in your life. For me, the season that I'm in right now is I'm in hustle mode. I am putting in the long hours. I have just started this podcast. I'm interviewing people. I'm doing solo episodes. I'm doing the content creation. I'm editing. I'm creating. I'm also doing status aligned. I'm mentoring incredible women. I've released incredible products for people who want to do it themselves. I'm building connections. I'm creating content, but I'm also balancing that with frequent travel, making sure that I'm exercising, I'm playing sport, I'm playing basketball, I'm doing my reformer Pilates, I'm trying to eat well, I'm balancing my relationships. But do you know what? Because I'm in such hustle mode with my business right now, that does mean that there is less time available for social relationships. And at the stage that I'm in my life right now, the season, that's okay because what I'm valuing is slightly different. It's not that I don't value the people in my life, but the people in my life, those closest to me, also know that this is the season I'm in. Some of them can relate to that because they're in a similar stage. Some of them have been in that phase at a different time, and some of them can't really relate to that at all. And that's okay. When you are reevaluating your values and your priorities, don't be surprised if people naturally slip away out of your life or certain responsibilities or commitments naturally fade away. This isn't something to be feared. Yes, it can be sad. However, in order for you to live the life that you truly desire to be living, this is a natural part of life. One thing that I've heard Julie say in the past is that people in particular can come into your life for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. And that is not just the case for people, but that's also the case for different jobs, locations that we're living in, opportunities. Sometimes they come into our life for a season. And when our values and priorities shift and we're entering into a different season of our life, these things will just naturally fade away. And that's okay. So if you find that your values and your priorities have shifted, there's a couple of things that you might want to do. So the first one is to reevaluate your core values. I love this. I actually have a few free resources on this as well. So I'm going to link them in the notes below. But I want you to really focus on what actually feels meaningful to you now. There are going to be some core fundamental values that last with you throughout life. But when we do this exercise, I want you to really focus on the things that are important to you now, kind of outside of those core deep values. So that might be social connections, that might be creative freedom, that might be peace and stability, that might be health and exercise, it might be mental well-being. There's going to be different things that you're emphasizing for this chapter of your life that feels really good for you. The second thing, and this is super important, is to give yourself permission to evolve without guilt. It is not normal for people to be the same person from when they were a young adult all the way through their life. Even though that's what society does push, you are allowed to evolve. You are allowed to change. You are allowed to change your mind, and you do not have to feel guilty about that. Who cares if you've spent the last 5, 10 years in a particular job or a particular career? Who cares if you've spent $20,000, $30,000 on a university degree that you absolutely have no interest in pursuing? Who cares if you change your mind? It's your life. You're the one that's going to be living it. Release yourself of guilt, release yourself of the burden, release yourself of the pressure. Giving yourself permission to be authentically you and to live your life in a way that is in alignment with who you truly are is one of the most powerful things that you could do for yourself. The other key thing is surrounding yourself with people who will inspire your next chapter. Now, a lot of the people that are closest to me right now, a lot of them don't actually have their own businesses. And being around entrepreneurs and being inspired by entrepreneurs is critical for me. So I have actively sought out connections with people who do have their own business, who are in a similar life season and chapter as I am. And this also extends to people online. You want to surround yourself with people, whether in person or online, who are expanders for your mind, showing you what is possible. It's true what they say, seeing is believing. Your brain needs to see what's possible. It will make such a big difference to your mindset. So I really encourage you to surround yourself with people who will really inspire you to step into this new chapter with confidence. One of the exercises I give my clients in my 6-week transformer program is to find expanders on social media. So whether that's Instagram or TikTok, YouTube, wherever, I don't mind. I want you to find 3 expanders that show you the life that you desire is possible. So maybe not all of their life aligns with the life that you desire to be living. There might just be elements. However, if you are scrolling before bed, which a lot of people do, let's be real, if you have to be scrolling on your phone on social media before bed, my advice is to make sure that the last people that you are viewing are your expanders. When we're sleepy, our brains are so much more impressionable. So I want you to go to sleep filling your mind with possibility and inspiration and not doom, dread, negativity, or anything that is going to keep you where you are. Okay, so the fourth and final common sign that you have outgrown your current circumstance, situation, relationship is fear and resistance are keeping you stuck. You've been able to identify that these are the things that are preventing you from taking that bold step forward. So, in this case, you are recognizing the need for change, but you feel overwhelmed by the unknown. If I had $1 for every person who drops into my DMs or does my coaching programs who's told me that they knew a change was required a long time before they actually made it because they were fearful, because they were really worried about the unknown, I would be one rich gal. I'm telling you that self doubt, fear, overwhelm is such a prohibitor when it comes to living the life that we actually dream about. Self doubt often creeps in, and a lot of people like to call this imposter syndrome. There is no such thing as imposter syndrome, it's not a syndrome. It's just another word for self doubt. So, we can often have self doubt creep in, especially when we're in a new situation. Maybe we're in a new role, we're stepping into the unknown. And this will often come with thoughts like, what if I fail? Or what if this isn't the right move? Or what will people think of me? Am I qualified enough for this? Do I have enough information? Am I educated enough? Am I too young? Am I too old? Am I the right gender? Am I pretty enough? Am I tall enough? The list just keeps going. And I'm sure that you would have probably 100 different things that you personally could add that you've wondered and questioned about yourself. So the issue here is, yes, we all have self-doubt. This is not something that we can ever get rid of. And to be frank with you, it's not something that you would ever want to completely get rid of. And we'll talk about that another day. But the issue here is when you know that it is time for a change, when your current circumstance is not serving you, when the current relationship you have outgrown, whatever the case may be, but the only reason that you're not changing the circumstance or the relationship or the role or whatever it is out of fear. Or maybe you're just waiting for the perfect time to take action. Oh, this one, I need to call myself out on this. The perfect time, it doesn't necessarily exist. Waiting for the perfect time often means that you are waiting far too long. I know that it feels uncomfortable, but taking action before you feel ready is often the best thing that you can do. Okay, so I'm going to call you out. If you are currently in a situation that you know that you have outgrown, and the only reason you're staying in this situation is out of fear or self doubt or waiting for the perfect time, I want you to do this. I want you to first understand that fear is normal. It shows up when we are stepping into the unknown. It is our brain's job to keep us safe. It prefers familiar discomfort than potential unfamiliar comfort. So, this is actually a normal reaction to have. So, I want to first acknowledge that. But I want you to then shift your mindset from what if it all goes wrong to what if it all goes right. Sometimes we just need to call out ourselves and call out the unhelpful or intrusive thoughts and challenge these. I'm not even going to try and say the stat, but it's staggering. It's like 80% of the thoughts that we think are actually untrue. So you need to challenge yourself and grab hold of some optimism and remind ourselves that there's every chance that everything will go even better than we planned. The final thing that I want you to think about is taking a small intentional step. This is about progress over perfection. I know it can be difficult, especially type A personalities. I feel ya. But sometimes taking small intentional steps forward is going to be far more powerful than taking crazy leaps and bounds in a direction that you think that you're meant to be heading. Let's not put the pressure on ourselves to have it all figured out. Let's just take the first step. I say to my clients frequently, let's not build the whole staircase. That is really unkind to ourselves to do that. Let's just aim for where we're going and build the first step, and then the rest will reveal itself to you. I really want to emphasize that when it comes to living a life that is in alignment with your true self, the one that you can't wait to get out of bed for, the one that truly lights you up, that makes you feel so fulfilled and so happy. You need to be able to recognize the signs that you have grown or have outgrown the situations of your day to day, your relationships, the roles, the responsibilities. Okay, so let's recap the 4 signs that we just spoke about, the ones that are the most common that I hear from my clients. The first is that you are feeling disconnected. The second is that your inner voice, your intuition is getting hella loud and you are not able to ignore that thing anymore. The third thing is that your values and priorities are changing. And the fourth is that you know that it's time for a change, but fear and resistance are keeping you stuck. Take note of these. Which ones do you feel in your life right now? It could be one, it could be a combination. I want to reiterate to you that it is completely normal and expected that you are going to outgrow different things in your life throughout your life now, and it will happen in the future continuously. You are not lost. Okay, let me say that again. You are not lost. You are evolving. Don't fear it, celebrate it. If these signs that we've spoken about today are resonating with you, my guess is that you are probably feeling frustrated, overwhelmed, and maybe unclear about what your next step is. If that is the case, I want you to re listen to this episode when you have a quiet moment. I want you to journal in some of the prompts that I've given throughout this episode. Approach yourself with curiosity. There is no judgment here. Give yourself permission that it's okay to grow, evolve, and change. And if you want further guidance, drop me a DM. Drop me a DM on Status Aligned or on the Not So Status Quo Instagram pages, and I'd be happy to assist you further because you are not alone and you do not have to do this alone. All right, my new friends, I am so glad that you stuck around for this conversation. I am excited to bring you another guest episode next week, and you are in for a treat. Bring your notepads to this one. The gold that is dropped, I know you're just going to love it. Again, connect with me on Instagram. On the Not So Status Quo page, I am going to be asking for your input into what topics you want me to do a deep dive on for next time. And I look forward to catching you in the next episode of Not So Status Quo.